Starting out in Scottsdale, the weather was cold and wet and gloomy. Quickly I got onto the Northeast Rail Trail.
Here we go, 70 odd k's to
A nicely packed gravel surface, and I thought I was in for an easy ride because the first 8 kilometres or so basically tend downhill through beautiful green open countryside. But after 8 kilometres it began to climb, and it climbed and it climbed, and for the next 18 kilometres it was 10-11 kilometres an hour, grinding uphill without a break. But of course the beautiful scenery helped make up for that. This is a hand dug chasm through solid basalt. And basalt's one of the hardest rocks you can dig through, and these guys did it by hand. It's turned out quite beautiful in the long run, hasn't it?
So, just left Weldborough. Final 21 kilometres to Triabunna, and 2 hours to do it in. Should only take an hour and a half, but we'll see. And lots of misty rain about. Right,
because of the rain and conditions, I didn't pull out the GoPro during the really hard slog up the hill. But outside Weldborough it was 5 or 6 kilometres at 5-4 kilometres an hour. And to come down the other side was glorious into Triabunna. The next day, before heading off to St Helens on the coast, I decided to visit St Columba Falls, and it was a beautiful quiet road towards them. Looked like it was going to be an easy ride, but then of course the inevitable Tasmanian climb. 5 kilometres again.
Look at this, legs walking towards the St Columba's Falls. Big push up the hill again. Now,
so after the long grind up the hill, it was pleasurable to actually get off the bike and walk through this beautiful green lush rainforest over crystal clear streams, ferns all around. And then what I'd come to see, St Columba Falls. I felt a little bit removed from the falls because you just walk up to this little landing and you look at the falls, but you don't actually get down into them. So it was a little bit removed compared to what it could have been. And so the day continued, nice and sunny, flat towards St Helens. The roads are very quiet. Occasionally there's a car, but the ones that do pass by are considerate of the little cyclist on his little cycle. And coming into St Helens. Next day, after a nice rest, I headed off to look at the scenery around St Helens. I went to St Helens Point, which is opposite the place most people go, which is the Bay of Fires. Still have the same stunning scenery, the red lichen on the rocks and nice little secluded bays and beaches, but practically deserted at this time of year, winter. On the whole 2-hour walk I saw 2 other people, that was it. Lots of rocks and little bays and inlets to explore on this walk, including the famous red algae. And of course the camera can never show it in all its glory, so this is just a representation. I love the contrast between the red and the beautiful blue water. And the walk ends at Beer Barrel Beach. Once again, deserted. And I think these rocks were what possibly gave it the name Beer Barrel Beach. Next day continued southwards. This time it was 75 kilometres to Bicheno. And on the little folding bike, that's quite a long ride. It's equivalent to probably 120 k's on a full-size touring bike. But the views were worth it, and it was basically flat. The view varied between the road snaking through open farmland and beautiful coastal vistas with that beautiful blue water and vineyards. Plenty of time to admire them.
I just saw a whale exhaling just about 200 metres offshore. Obviously it's not visible in the GoPro, but there's definitely at least one whale just offshore there.
So the question is, does seeing whale spume equate to seeing a whale? I think it does. Anyway, the road continued nice and flat towards Bicheno. The sea always on the left. Beautiful sunny day. Actually, I actually had a tailwind, which was good. And that's Bicheno up ahead. Pretty little town. Next day it was off to Coles Bay or Freycinet. Flat road. There's an inlet there on the right with providing a little bit of scenery, but mostly it was just between trees. And as Freycinet Peninsula came into view, the scenery got more and more interesting. Including lots of beautiful little bays and rocks and nice vistas, and of course what everyone comes to see after hiking up the hill, Wineglass Bay. Late in the day, so couldn't do the whole circuit. I had done that years before anyway. Next day, backtracked 28 kilometres on the same piece of road I came down before turning left and towards Swansea. Another 30 kilometres. It's pretty tired by this stage, but you just pedal on and head down, bum up, and next thing you know you've gone 20 kilometres, 30 kilometres. 50 kilometres this day, of which some of it was grinding at 6 and 7 kilometres an hour. All part of the experience. Still a bit envious of the cars that can just roar past.
Things that these people seem to have. They seem to be able to go up the hill pretty damn quick. Onward. Well, I was going to say onward Christian soldiers, but there aren't any. Don't think I'm going fast enough to worry about. over 40 k's to get here. Bit steep.
Eventually the long climb came to an end, and after a bit of a rest I headed down the other side. The scenery away from the coast was not as interesting. Sort of farmland and a bit of bush, and then another highlight, this beautiful avenue of autumn trees. And into Swansea and its famous store. Not much else to see there though. Finally, the last day of the ride, 50 kilometres down to Triabunna. Once again, lots of open farmland and vistas left and right. But the lack of sun made the day a little bit duller.
Spiky bridge. Unbelievable.
Spiky bridge, eh? Surely unique in the world in one way or another. More farming vistas, and the road of course relatively flat. Relatively flat means that your climbs at 5, 8, 9 kilometres an hour are only a few hundred metres rather than the kilometres further back in the northeast.
To Triabunna, 5 kilometres now. 392 kilometres ridden. From here on it's all buses and walking and planes and no more riding.
And although not part of the ride, I filmed my trip to Maria Island, which is the highlight for a lot of people at Triabunna. Take the ferry over and spend the day walking around this little island, or the northern part of it, that was once convict prison. Quite a few different things to see, fossil cliffs. I walked through the almost rainforest up to a convict built dam. It was blowing about 50 or 60 kilometres out on the open near the sea, and in here there wasn't even a breath of wind. Quite amazing. As you can see, the wild whitecaps coming in because it was just blowing 50 or 60 kilometres from the west all day. The main penal settlement on Maria Island was Darlington, and most of the buildings have been preserved or revamped, and it's quite a vibrant little place mostly, and people can camp here, camping in the old cells which have been set up as dormitories. Whether it was as whitewashed as it is here during the time of the convicts, I don't know. It's certainly a nice looking place at the moment. People sitting on the balconies, people who are camping there overnight. And a real highlight for overseas visitors, mostly I guess, are the